Some lies are benevolent. Some are easy to spot. True story. Last week I went to the grocery store. I parked in a shady spot far away from the entrance. As I got back to my truck, a woman walked up to my door. She said, "Excuse me, I don't mean to be impolite. I watched you all the way from the front of the store. I just want to tell you that you have a very sexy walk." I couldn't walk straight for a week after that. I kept thinking of what she said and how can I repeat that walk? I almost walked off the dock on Friday night just trying to think about how I'm walking. I've been told a number of things about my walk. One friend told me that she could always see me coming and tell it was me from a long distance because I have a distinctive walk. Sexy was not the word. I've been called a cowboy. I've been told I have the perfect build to ride a motorcycle. I'm bow-legged, I'm sore in every joint, and I'm often unsteady on my feet. But a sexy walk, that's just a sweet lie. Remember Cheers, the TV show? It was a Boston bar. Cheers, you may know, really is on Beacon Street, just down the road from our former Unitarian Universalist headquarters up on Beacon Hill. For 86 years we were there. I've been in that bar a time or two. Honest. In the show, there was Diane, the prim and proper blonde that everybody loved to hate. Then there was the cynic Carla, who loved to hate everybody. Diane, defending herself one day, remarked, "Honesty is a virtue I live for above all else." Carla quipped, "This from a woman wearing rubber eyelashes and a padded bra." There are a lot of ways to consider honesty. Stephanie Harrison took a look at, quote, the ways we lie. She said she once tried going a whole week without telling a lie, just stating facts, and it was paralyzing. Telling the truth all the time, she said, is nearly impossible. It means living with some serious consequences. Her list of lies: first, the little white lie, a politically incorrect term. This kind of tale that we're referring to assumes that the truth will cause more damage than a harmless untruth. And it can. In fact, we have an expression we sometimes say, people are brutally honest. Dr. Janice Webb in Psychology Today offered this about that. Long after the brutally honest have shared their, quote, truth, the recipient continues to feel the pain. Brutally honest people, she said, may be unaware of the harm they do, or they may be giving themselves an easy out. Interesting. When the words hurt, the message is lost. People won't hear you once you have hurt them. So practice truth with compassion. Respect other people's feelings. Another way we lie, says Erickson, is omitting facts. One or two key elements which change the story in an attempt to cover up. One girl told the story of a friend whose dog showed up with the neighbor's pet rabbit in its mouth. The friend was quite shaken up by this. The poor rabbit was dead. Rather than confess, her friend took the rabbit, shampooed it, dried it with her blow dryer, and surreptitiously returned it to the cage. Next day, the rabbit's owner came knocking. "Have you witnessed anything bizarre in the past few days?" No, she lied. "Why do you ask?" "The strangest thing, my rabbit died. I buried it, and yesterday it showed up in the cage again. We can also lie, especially to ourselves, by, quote, ignoring the facts. This seems to be our political reality today. Utney Reader cover story many years ago was called "The Whole Truth About Lying." The author asked, are we lying more these days? Are the politicians piling it on deeper and thicker? Or maybe we've gotten so used to lying and expecting to be lied to that we can no longer recognize the truth. In something called the Rokich Value Survey, Virginia Adams says the vast majority of Americans of all genders, races, religions, classes, and educational levels, all of us put honesty at the top of their lists. Honesty is our most important acknowledged quality in life. Webster defines honesty as fairness and straightforwardness of conduct. I find that interesting. You put the word conduct in there. Adherence to the facts, sincerity, a refusal to lie, cheat, or steal in any way. I can think of only two people who fit this definition. Mohandas K. Gandhi, whose autobiography is called The Story of My Experiments with Truth. No wonder Gandhi was never elected to public office. The other is my sister Vicky. And I'm not really sure about Gandhi. I never knew him personally. I do know that my sister holds herself accountable to a high moral standard which precludes her telling a lie, exaggerating the truth, bending the rules, or omitting a fact. I know she isn't perfect, but Vicky lives by the standard that lying is wrong. Not brutal honesty, but radical honesty. I myself prefer the Bible verse that says, "A lie is an abomination unto the Lord, but an ever-present help in time of trouble." That's a lie. Psychology Today conducted research on honesty with 24,000 respondents, and they reported this. And incidentally, 4,000 of those people not only sent their answers in, but wrote in explanations. I find that interesting about them explaining their answers to the survey. The most significant predictor, according to this survey, of moral behavior was, what would you guess? The most significant predictor of moral behavior is religious commitment, according to this survey. Feel free to take notes on anything you hear. Oh, I'm getting to it. Let's see. I wrote down where it was coming. No, not yet. Thank you for reminding me. So we found, it says, quote, "We found that self-ratings on the question, how religious are you, were the best single predictor of moral standards and behavior. Only the amount given to charity, was a better predictor of how closely each person's behavior corresponded to beliefs." And I say, As for situation ethics, those modifiers, if you get caught, if the items were overpriced, if she was gorgeous, if you hated the coworker. Again, the more religious seemed to say, what is wrong, or as I call it, the Vicky philosophy. Honesty seems to have something to do with belief. Or maybe religious people just have such strong convictions that they cannot bear to confess the truth about their own behavior. Gallup says in the USA, in the United States today, 47% of people identify as religious, 33% as spiritual. And the greatest variation or dichotomy in religious or spiritual beliefs is seen by two things: affiliation and, what would you guess? What group of people would be less or more religious? It's defined by, no, age. The older folks being ones who claim religion, and our younger people are moving. And so there has been a downward trend. This USA Today was from last year, 2023. And it noted things, let's see, on the next slide. This is it. Republicans claiming to be religious, Democrats and independents claiming to be either religious, spiritual, and then you see neither. And they say that the number of religious or spiritual people is down in all categories of people, ages, party, all that spiritual or religious is numbers are down, but and the swing has been going up also from religious to spiritual. I think we face that a lot. We have, I myself have often said I'm spiritual but not religious. But as you see by these numbers in America for years to come, self-proclaimed religious people will continue to be a majority. You add these together, you get upwards of 80%. But what does this mean? Something doesn't fit to me. We know what's going on in this country today. The whole world knows. There's developing a culture of deep lies, fake news, up is down and good is bad, alternative truth, and losing is winning. And the statistical correlation that was mentioned by another article between religious affiliation or religious proclamation and truth-telling just doesn't measure up for me. It doesn't. Yeah, I'm a denier. I don't believe it. I looked into this fact-checking phenomenon that we have, and I found it isn't new. Wikipedia reports from the 1850s on, sensationalism in newspapers led to a need for more trustworthy media. The Associated Press, in fact, was created in 1850 to provide short, factual reports that could be dispersed to all the media. Ralph Pulitzer created his Bureau of Accuracy and Fair Play in 1912. The New Yorker created a fact-checking department. But there's no denying this Wikipedia statement. Quote, in the 2010s, particularly following the 2016 election of Donald Trump, fact-checking exploded and spread throughout the United States, Europe, and Latin America. Now, according to the fact-checker checkers, who check up on the fact-checkers, groups like PolitiFact, FactCheck.org, and others, quote, overwhelmingly agree on their evaluations of claims. So there is some consistency among those fact-checkers. Based on the findings of a 2017 study in the journal Psychological Science, the most effective ways to reduce misinformation through corrections is by, one, walking through the reasons why a piece of misinformation is false rather than just labeling it false. But two, limiting detailed descriptions. Don't go overboard. Don't over-explain the misinformation. Keep it simple. And 3, presenting new, more credible information. Inform the public. Don't just say this is a lie, but put out some truth so to help them understand the subject. And finally, using video, as videos appear to be more effective than text at increasing attention and reducing confusion. So that would make sense to me. Show it. A 2019 study in the Journal of Experimental Political Science found strong evidence that citizens are willing to accept corrections to fake news regardless of their ideology and the content of the fake story. That's hopeful. On the other side of the aisle, so to speak, here are some other interesting findings. Large study by Ethan Porter and Thomas Wood found that misinformation by Donald Trump was more difficult to dispel. Interesting. A study of Trump supporters during the 2016 campaign found that while fact checks of false claims made by Trump reduced his supporters' belief in the false claims, so they did accept it, the corrections did not alter their attitudes toward Trump. A paper out of Princeton found that consumers of fake news tended to have less favorable views of fact-checking, in particular Trump supporters. And a 2018 study found that Republicans were more likely to correct their false information on voter fraud if the correction came from Breitbart News rather than a nonpartisan source such as PolitiFact. Duh. I ask you now, how is that helpful? I think what we're hearing is that fact-checking helps create a more honest environment, except when it doesn't. Scholars have, in fact, one Wikipedia sentence spells it out explicitly. Quote, scholars have debated whether fact-checking could lead to a backfire effect, whereby correcting false information may make partisan individuals cling more strongly to their views. We've all seen that. One study found evidence of such a backfire effect, but several other studies did not. This info on fact-checking and truth in reporting contradicts, for me at least, the relation between religion and honesty. 61-28, what is that? 89% Republicans claim to be religious. I think what we are left with is a conflict between fact and truth. This info on fact-checking and truth in reporting contradicts all that. What are we to make of this? It's your turn. Any questions, any comments?
The power of news, where people get their information, determines what they believe, obviously. Mm-hmm. And that's why we have such a divide.
Confirmation bias works in as well, because you're with the world's information in the palm of your hand, you're looking for something that tells you what you already. So yeah, that's
interesting.
Legit.
Yeah. That's a backfire effect.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's being fact-checked or not. It resonates with you, so therefore it must be true.
And cognitive dissonance.
There you go.
Because you don't care.
There's that. Yeah.
You don't care. Right. You just say to yourself, oh well.
Yeah.
I still love the guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like my husband has literally said, I'm like, he lies all the time. He's like, but in a good way. I'm like, how do you argue with that?
Yeah.
I think a lot of it.
He thinks it's funny.
A lot of it also has to do, when you look at the sheer amount of information that is thrown at us, whether it's in news, radio, newspaper, just a discussion with somebody on the street, I think there is a natural tendency to not question, but rather to look for a source or look for something that makes sense of that. And I think people will latch on to what is sometimes the simplistic thing, the more simplistic, easier to understand, which is what they said on TV. And it's which channel you choose. It's simply there's so much stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Well, being from Holland, I think the statistics there are a little different.
Yes.
Because I talk with my family and they think a lot of times that, you know, how people react here is, you know, exaggerated, inappropriate. You know, I think if you would check other countries, you come up with different results, I would think.
Certainly in regard to
Definitely,
this.
yeah, definitely.
Yes.
I have friends in Britain,
Yeah,
and they laugh so hard
I
at us.
know that.
They laugh and laugh and laugh in a very sad way, but
Yeah, well, they're very worried too.
they're very worried about
Yeah.
us, and
Yeah.
it's,
Religion certainly in the world is declining worldwide, or in Europe and
very much so,
other places. The numbers would be much lower than this.
very much so.
Now, this does not indicate people who are actively involved in churches and stuff, because church membership is declining, even among the Unitarian Universalists. For a while, we were holding our own while all of the others were going down, because I think because we offer something with truth in the title, you know.
People aware of something called the Stockholm Syndrome?
Yes.
Patty Hearst
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is a manipulation that Donald Trump has
Right.
perfected.
Exactly.
Is to create in people who are willing to listen and support him an
Yeah.
identity, so that, I mean, he's constantly saying, they're doing this to you, they're doing this to you.
Yeah.
They're doing this
Yeah.
to you, they're persecuting me because they're coming after you.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that makes it very difficult for someone who's identifying that anything contrary to what they're being
Right.
told and have received, even if you show them factually that's incorrect, it's a core identity. It's part of their core identity, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so amazingly sticky.
Yeah.
That even though you can point out the fact, oh, you're religious, so what do you think about the guy who's grabbing women by and
Yeah.
who's had
Yeah,
multiple extramarital affairs and,
Right.
oh, well, you know, at least he's fighting for me, right?
Yeah.
Again,
Right.
Right.
it's a
And there are
personal
some
identification.
who are one issue voters.
Right.
That's a big thing. In fact, this helps me a little bit, I think, I get it with people that are not well educated, people that are, you know,
Mm-hmm.
from the poor side
No,
and
but it's-
have nothing, but it's not just those people.
No.
It's my
The
family.
crypto people.
It-
Like,
it-
they're the
it's my
smartest
family.
people
It's
here
my
in this
family.
country.
My family's well educated,
Yeah.
wealthy, middle class, and big, strong Trump supporters. So it's a personal thing for me, because I've been trying to figure out how to cross that crevasse that's developing there.
Listen, Fox News stole my dad before he died, so yeah, I'm totally with you on that. My dad used to be a very progressive person and willing to hear
Wow.
all sides of an issue. As he got older and closer to Fox News, Fox News more or less scared him to death.
Mhm.
You know, it turned him into from a positive, forward-looking, progressive man
Scared.
into a scared,
Yep.
oh my God, fear of a brown planet.
Actually, it started even before Fox, because you had right-wing radio that really
Well, yeah, the
started
radio,
first,
the
and then
right-wing
Fox.
radio,
I
but
think on top
Fox
of the
sucked
Fox.
my
You have
blood
Rush
in.
Limbaugh,
Yeah, you had Limbaugh, but
who
I
was
think
4
Fox
hours a
just
day.
developed it and
And because
perfected it
he
and made
came
it.
up in a time where he grew up with Walter Cronkite and all of
Yeah.
these
The
honest,
most trusted.
I miss Walter
right, honest
Cronkite.
news people. So his attitude was, this is the news, why would they lie?
But we have had false prophets our whole lives, our whole society.
But if we're trying to talk about American political structure and to change. I think it was really coming out of Jimmy Carter and Jerry Falwell and Moral Majority and
Amen,
turning
brother.
it into a huge, you know, it was really our way of life is under attack.
That was the evangelical thing.
Yeah.
That was the
There's a
moral
movie.
majority with Reagan and all.
And Reagan and the lies used
Oh,
to get
yeah.
Carter out of office.
Reagan was part of that whole
With
thing.
the whole-
Yeah, we should
with-
watch that
With
movie.
the whole thing about,
Oh, yeah, there
The
was a movie.
evangelical movie, it's
Let-
called Bad Faith.
Oh.
It is.
I would love to
remind
see
me,
that.
and we'll put it on.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to move on. Thank you for participating and thinking on this topic. I want to end with a little UU note. Honesty, I believe, is not mere truthfulness. It's not, as Webster suggested, adherence to the facts. Ted Tollefson, a UU minister, has written about this relationship between fact and honesty. Here's where our spirituality emerges. He tackles the old question about, comforting a child with our tales of Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy. Do we tell these stories? And Reverend Tollefson said we need to think of honesty in mythic terms. Life is way too complex, deep, and rich for facts. Reverend Ted even borrowed his definition from a child when he said, myth is a story that is false on the outside but true on the inside. Mythology and storytelling, jokes and dreams, they transcend beliefs. Beliefs and doctrines are but shadowy expressions of the mystery and wonder of the stars and universe and that blue dot and us. Amen.